Welcome, fellow sonic alchemists and relentless tone hounds, to the Deep Dive. If you, like us, have spent, well, a significant chunk of your life in that glorious, sometimes maddening pursuit of that perfect guitar tone, then you've definitely heard the whispers, the legends.
Oh, yeah. Legends of amps that aren't just electronics, right? There's something more. Pieces of gear so revered they get called the Stradivarius of guitar amps.
Or, unobtainium in amplifier forms. That one always gets me. For the real collectors out there, today we are going deep, really deep, excavating the bedrock of maybe the most enigmatic and celebrated piece of gear in guitar history.
Precisely. We're talking about Howard Alexander Dumble's custom-built amplifiers, these things. They're not just amps. For so many players, they represent the absolute pinnacle of the art, instruments of almost.
Yeah, alchemical artistry, famous for responsiveness, this expressive quality that's just so hard to pin down.
But, and it's the big but, the rarity, and honestly, the price tags.
Right, they're basically out of reach for, well, pretty much everyone. Most players will never even stand in the same room as one.
Which brings us to the other side of this deep dive.
Exactly. Our mission today, it's kind of twofold. First, let's try and unravel the mystique, the sheer technical brilliance, and the legacy of Dumble's original creations. The man, the amps, the whole story.
And then?
Then we pivot. We look at how something much more accessible, the MXR Custom Shop Shin Juku drive pedal, actually tries to capture that legendary Dumble sound. Can you really bottle that lightning?
It's a fascinating question, and this isn't just about schematics, It's the folklore, the people involved, the very human, sometimes obsessive quest for the ultimate tone.
Totally. We want to give you a real shortcut to being seriously well-informed on this. We've dug through a mountain of sources, historical accounts, deep technical dives, personal stories from players and Dumble's associates, sonic comparisons, works.
Yeah, we've tried to get multiple angles. It's complex, often debated, but hopefully we can give you a rare glimpse into Dumble's genius and maybe its more accessible modern forms.
So have that quest for tone as your guiding star. Settle in. This is a deep dive into an absolute legend, a legend that's still shaping how we think about amps today.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. The man himself, Howard Alexander Dumble, born in Bakersfield, California, 1944. A prodigy by all accounts.
And his background, it's almost too perfect, isn't it? Grandfather, a musician, leading a 20-piece string band.
Curious musical roots.
Deep immersion. And his father, an engineer, credited with helping develop one of the first automatic transmissions.
Wow.
So you've got this blend, right? Music and engineering brilliance. It's not just trivia. It feels key to his whole approach. It explains why he saw amps not just as circuits, but as almost like acoustic instruments, an extension of the player. It was in his DNA, you could say.
That makes a lot of sense. And even as a kid, the electronics talent was there. Age 12, building and selling transistor radios. Yeah, from scratch. $5 a pop to kids at school. That early knack for tech and even a bit of business, it clearly set the stage.
He wanted to be a trombone player first, apparently.
Yeah, but then rock and roll hit him. Age 16, saw a concert, got inspired by Les Paul and Mary Ford, their multi-tracking, their sound.
Ah, Les Paul, of course.
Picked up a guitar, and that was it. Path set.
And his first big amp build wasn't even for guitar, was it? It was that PA system.
That's right. High school junior, this guy Jack Smith asks him to build some PA gear for the local junior baseball association.
And Dumble being Dumble.
He builds this monster 200-watt power amp so they could announce across 9 baseball diamonds at once.
9, as a teenager.
Incredible, right? And the success of that project, he said himself, that was the spark. That convinced him, okay, I'm building my own guitar amp. He saw a need, applied his skills, built something real. Apparently, it still works today.
That's amazing. So this unique approach he developed, it didn't just spring out of nowhere. He started by taking things apart.
Exactly. He was deep into Fender, Gibson, taking them apart, figuring them out, absorbing how they worked. He supposedly knew some circuits so well, he could draw the schematics from memory.
Wow.
And here's something interesting. His early Fender mods, back in the late 60s, they already looked a bit like later high-gain amp designs. He was ahead of the curve, even then.
So he was learning, internalizing, but then pushing it further. You mentioned he used different transformers sometimes.
Yeah, David Hafler transformers and some early dual Showman types, because Fender ones were hard to get. And he noted they sounded quite extraordinary.
So even early on, that commitment to quality components, even if they weren't the standard ones.
Absolutely. And he was studying electronics constantly, noticing the inconsistencies in mass-produced amps, cheaper parts, components not matching up. He saw a problem.
And decided he was the one to fix it through custom building.
That became his obsession. which led pretty quickly to his first big commissions. 1965, right after high school, Semi Mosley,
From Monterey Guitars.
the very same, approached Dumble, who was just 18, to build 10 amps for the Ventures.
The Ventures, wow.
Dumble, apparently full of confidence, shows Mosley his work. Mosley is completely flipped out by it. Dumble builds 11 units, all his own piggyback head design.
So what happened? Did the Ventures use them?
I found them a bit too much rock for their surf sound at the time, apparently. But Mosley saw the genius, offered him a mass production deal,
In Dumber.
turned it down. At 18, wanted to focus on studio work, his own custom designs. He even kept the 11th amp himself. Speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Incredible conviction. So late 60s, he sets up his own shop in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, servicing, rebuilding amps. That period solidified it. He was an amplifier builder.
And the funding for that shop came from playing bass.
Huh. Yeah, touring gig in 68 as a bassist for Buffy St. Marie. That gig money let him move the operation out of his backyard into a proper building. Every step seemed to lead him closer.
Amazing how those things connect. Which takes us to his own branded amps finally emerging. The Winterland.
Right, around 68, 69. Named after the famous San Francisco venue, of course. Primarily designed as a 220-watt bass amp. Lots of headroom, clarity for bass.
But guitarists started using it too.
Oh, yeah. And there was a 450-watt power amp version, too. 3 octal preamp tubes. 4 KT88s usually, sometimes 6550s if KT88s were hard to find.
Any particular inspiration for the Winterland circuit?
Sources mention a dyno kit amp, maybe even the Marshall Major 200W. His friend Jack Smith recalled him building 2 specifically for a bassist, Michael Hulsa.
And the sound, how did it differ from, say, a Fender Bussman of the era?
More natural cleans, people said, but with a richer harmonic response. More complexity in the overtones. Distinctive silver face panel. Very few made, maybe 20 tops. Simple controls. 2 inputs, volume, treble, bass, but with specific treble and bass boost switches. Even then, that focus on nuanced tone shaping. Then came the explosion in 1969. His first real guitar-focused model after the Ventures thing.
Explosion, great name.
Apparently, the early ones looked kind of crude, working prototypes, had a switch for Explosion 1 and 2. That prototype still works, and it directly evolved into the Overdrive Special. The big innovation here, the thing that set Dumble apart early on, was processing the signal post-preamp.
Okay, break that down. Why was that radical?
Well, most amps boosted the signal before the preamp to get gain. Dumble found that often led to harsh, kind of non-musical tones and could stress the tubes. By putting the gain stage after the clean preamp, he got that oomph and beautiful sustain and harmonic richness without the electronic headaches, letting the clean tone breathe first.
A fundamental shift in thinking. And that leads us to the big one, the Overdrive Special, the ODS.
His magnum opus, really, evolved from the Explosion, refined by 1972. Core idea. 2 channels, clean and high gain, but with a cascading preamp.
Cascading.
His signal goes through multiple gain stages in sequence, each one building on the last. So the overdrive isn't just tacked on, it literally builds on top of that pristine, clean foundation. That's the key to how it stays so articulate, even when it's screaming.
Ah, okay. Retaining the clean character within the drive.
Exactly. Usually use 6L6 tubes, 2 or 4, for 50 or 100 watts. Some later ones use EL34s too. Power section was kind of like a Fender Bassman, but heavily tweaked, constantly evolving over decades.
And he added more features over time. Master volumes, that HRM EQ.
Right. Really responsive master volumes. And the internal hot rubber monkey, the HRM EQ. Think of it like a second, super refined tone control, but placed after the overdrive section.
So it shapes the distorted sound itself.
Precisely. Sculpting the saturations character, not just the overall EQ. That, plus switchable voicings like jazz and rock, boost switches, incredible flexibility.
But here's the kicker, right? Every ODS was unique.
Fundamentally, they weren't built from a single schematic. He voiced them for the specific player, their guitar, using an oscilloscope to dial it in for Ben Harper, that kind of thing.
That's not just building, that's bespoke tailoring for sound.
That's the deepest insight into his genius, I think. The amp wasn't static, it was tuned to the player. It's why just cloning one is so hard. You're chasing a relationship, not just a circuit diagram. Component values, tube types, they varied. Each one a conversation.
Amazing. And alongside the ODS, there was the steel string singer, the SSS.
The clean holy grail. If the ODS is the ultimate overdrive, the SSS is the benchmark for clean. Super rare, maybe a dozen made.
What was the goal with the SSS?
Immense headroom. Absolute clarity. The goal was literally clean feedback notes sustaining endlessly, purely from the amp's power and harmonic richness, no distortion.
Ow.
People describe it as piano-like lows, glassy highs, special filters, incredibly lush reverb.
Yeah.
It just set a standard for clean tone at volume that's maybe never been surpassed.
Okay, so the tech is incredible. But the mystique, that scarcity and secrecy really fueled the legend, didn't it?
Oh, massively. His business model was, well, unique. Build amps only when he felt like it for only those musicians he deemed worthy or inspiring.
So not exactly high-volume production.
A handful a year, maybe, at his peak. But word got out among the A-list players. If you wanted the ultimate personalized amp,
Dumble was the guy. But you had to wait. And pay.
years on the waiting list, sometimes a decade. And the prices. Even before he passed in 2022, $50,000, $70,000 used wasn't uncommon. Famous ones, way into six figures.
Hundreds of thousands.
Easily. And since he passed, no more will ever be made. They are true collector's grails now. Absolute unobtainium.
And the secrecy aspect. The epoxy.
Fiercely guarded circuits. Potting the components in black epoxy resin, the secret sauce, the goop. It physically hid the circuit.
Like locking the recipe in a vault.
Exactly. Took no apprentices, lived largely off the grid, cash only, no banks, no credit cards. Friends said he intended for the knowledge to die with him, refused commercialization completely.
Wow. It's almost tragic, in a way, that dedication.
It absolutely fueled the legend and led to stories like the Cooter one.
You know, the infamous story.
Yeah.
Running over the amp.
Supposedly, yeah. Out of sheer frustration over a repair taking too long, drove over it in Dumble's driveway. Whether it's 100% true or not, it adds to that mythical aura. Scarce, expensive, mysterious, and wrapped up in intense human drama. Players had a connection to these things.
Okay, we've built up the legend, the man, the scarcity. But the sound, what is it? Why do players practically sell their souls for one? You hear otherworldly responsiveness, clarity, depth, huge, three-dimensional, articulate, a backbone of strength. How do you even start describing that?
It's tough because it's so much about the feel, but let's try. Start with the clean channel. Often overshadowed by the overdrive, but revolutionary in its own right. It's incredibly responsive, transparent, open.
You mentioned piano-like lows and glassy highs. Wider frequency range than a Fender.
Significantly. Higher highs, lower lows, but balanced. Not scooped or harsh. And it amplifies every little nuance. So much fidelity, you can get that clean feedback sustained without distortion, just pure tone ringing out.
And a feel. People talk about it feeling elastic.
Yeah, elastic, alive under the fingers. It reproduces dynamics incredibly well, from a whisper to a roar.
Yeah.
That immediate tactile connection is just fundamental. You feel totally linked to the amp.
Okay, and the overdrive channel. The reason for the season, for many Dumble fans?
Widely seen as the ultimate tube overdrive, yeah.
Yeah.
It's described as harmonically rich, fat, creamy, but above all, touch sensitive. It's not just distortion, it's incredibly dynamic.
And that bloom. That's the signature thing, right?
Absolutely. Notes don't just sustain, they bloom, they expand, grow richer harmonically, a real singing quality. And unlike amps that compress or sag when you hit them hard, the Dumble's recovery is super fast. It's instantly ready for the next note, keeping things clear even in fast runs.
And it does this while keeping the clean tones character, that purity and grit balance.
Miraculously, yes. Robin Ford put it perfectly. He said the lows are deep and rich, but not unclear. Mid-range, punchy and clear. High-end, bright, clear but doesn't hurt your ears. It's loud, but it sounds good. He called it a perfect sonic curve.
Loud but not harsh. That's the dream, isn't it?
It really is. As some fans said, you feel it in your ribs. A Dumble cranked up won't hurt your ears because the tone is so good. That's a level of refinement few amps achieve.
So why? What's under the hood making this happen? Component selection.
Fanatical attention to detail there. Rejecting 30% of parts he bought, only the best, meticulously placed. Clean wire routing, minimizing noise, maximizing purity. It was engineering as art.
And his EQ philosophy was different too, not just trying to make it hi-fi.
Right. He noticed early amps lacked low end for guitar, but he knew a straight hi-fi circuit just doesn't work out for guitar. It needs its own response curve. His solution: add a little more low end into the preamp circuitry.
Whole, but crucial.
Made it more tasteful and fun to play, he said. Contributed hugely to that big, full-bodied sound, that commanding presence.
They get called hi-fi, but with a twist, right? That milky high end.
Exactly. All frequencies are there, balanced, but the highs aren't brittle. They have this smoothness, this milkiness, and an almost built-in compression, like a great studio compressor, a Fairchild maybe. It pushes notes forward, makes them feel full, sustains them beautifully instead of letting them decay quickly. It's subtle dynamic shaping.
And maybe the most important part, the player interaction. It's not just an amp. It's part of the circuit with the player.
That's what players consistently say. Instruments of interaction. It connects to every screw and piece of wood in the guitar, then attaches to your fingers. That connectedness, Dave Hunter talks about it. Larry Carlton saying, I can do things I couldn't do before. The amp unlocks something in the player.
That responsiveness meant Dumble could adapt too, right? He didn't just make ODS amps.
Not at all. He did Fender mods and Marshall mods. His 70s Dumbles were apparently more Fender than the later 80s, 90s Skyliner models. Shows an evolution.
And those special mods, Rockphonics and Ultraphonics?
Yeah, Rockphonics for high gain. Ultraphonics was about adding that Dumble hi-fi magic to other amps, like a Fender Deluxe.
Like the Tweedledee Deluxe.
Perfect example. A 57 Deluxe reissue, gutted, rebuilt with Dumble's circuit. 1518 Honest Watt Celestion Greenback. Jason Isbell uses one. Pure Dumble tone in a classic package.
And the sleeper Dumbles. Those are fascinating.
Yeah, for the real insiders, he'd take a stock Fender cabinet like a 57 Bandmaster Tweed or a 70s Silverface Bassman chassis and replace everything inside. Transformers, circuit, all hand-wired Dumble. Looked like a Fender. Sounded like a Dumble.
Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Clapton had those?
Yeah.
Walk in with a Fender, blow people away.
Totally under the radar genius, which highlights why comparing Dumbles is so hard. It's not like comparing a Marshall to a Vox, maybe a far distant cousin of a Fender, clean-wise, but its own thing.
And critically, no two are alike, even the same model.
Because they were built for different players. Voice for their touch, their guitar. Explains why Robin Ford and Larry Carlton couldn't just swap their ODS amps and have them work the same. It's that personal connection.
You can't talk Dumble without talking about the players. The list is just legendary. Spanning genres, generations. It really starts with the early adopters, right? Like Lowell George.
For Lowell George, absolutely. Little Feat, one of the very first. Dumble built him an overdrive special reverb in '76. Might have been the first reverb model ever.
Oh, and he used it prominently.
Extensively on TV appearances like Midnight Special, Don Kirshner's rock concert, his slide work on that amp, amazing, showcased it to a huge audience, died way too young, 34.
Such a loss. And his specific ODS was known as a Strat amp.
Yeah, voiced for a Strat. And get this, Joe Bonamassa, after a 15-year search, finally acquired that exact amp, brought it out of retirement after 45 years. It's living history.
Incredible. Then there's Larry Carlton. Mr. 335.
An early adopter, too. Late 70s, early 80s. His ODS gave him that clarity within overdrive. Complex jazz chords ringing out clear even when pushed. That defined his sweet singing lead tone on tracks like Room 335.
And his amp had its own journey.
Yeah, his 100-watt ODS was later repurposed by Dumble, changed a bit, ended up owned by Santana for a while, then Taylor Barefoot. The lineage is fascinating.
Yeah, and Robin Ford.
Oh.
Maybe the Dumble sound for many people.
Arguably, yeah. The story goes Dumble designed the ODS circuit, specifically #102, after seeing Ford play a cranked bassman with a tube screamer in Santa Cruz.
Inspired by him directly.
Ford always praised its balance, that sustaining, blooming lead tone. His 100W ODS was core to his sound from '88's Talk to Your Daughter right through 2015, always with Celestion 65s.
And that story about him splitting the sale money with Dumble.
Amazing respect. Sold the amp, gave Dumble 40% of the proceeds, just out of gratitude. If you want to hear that tone, Live at Yoshi's 96 is basically the textbook.
Absolutely essential listening. And Stevie Ray Vaughan. You knew he had to be on this list.
Oh, SRV, of course. Owned multiple Dumbles, 2 steel string singers, #7 and #8, built at 150 watts because Stevie wanted that massive headroom.
He used a Dumble land bass amp, too.
Yeah, a 300-watt Dumble land for cleans on Texas Flood. Jackson Browne loaned it to him. Stevie's ability to get clean notes to sustain and sing, that ethereal feedback on Lenny, that's the SSS magic.
And John Mayer owns one of SRV's now, the King Tone console.
That's right, carrying the torch. Dumble and SRV had a great relationship, too. When Stevie's amps got stolen, Dumble loaned him an interim SSS he converted from another model. Shows the personal connection.
The David Lindley. Versatile player.
Incredibly. Used an ODS and an SSS in stereo. That lap steel solo on Jackson Browne's Running on Empty. Classic early ODS tone right there.
He owned ODS Take 2 and #8.
Yeah, chose #8 for the tone. And the buying process was cloak and dagger stuff. Auditioned them in a private theater somewhere undisclosed. His settings, taped on by Dumble, are still visible on #8. Little details like that are gold for amp nerds.
Carlos Santana, that infinite sustain.
He got an overdrive reverb, a late one with the Star Wars Surge. It's super rare, maybe 12 or 13 reverb models total, and an SSS in the early 2000s. Used Bludotone replicas live mostly to protect the originals.
Understandable.
But those Dumbles gave him that violin-like sustain, that articulate punch. They apparently had a real love affair, a deep mutual respect.
Eric Clapton, too, even with his history with Marshalls and Fenders.
Yep. Used Dumble modded 50s Fender twins, the Tweedledees, for creamy sustain, and later an overdrive reverb. Showed Dumble could give you that singing lead without losing clarity.
And the famous Clapton setting. All knobs on 7.
Huh. Yeah, apparently that was his preference. Everything on 7 says something about his approach.
Modern players, too. John Mayer's a big one.
Huge torchbearer, owns several originals, SSS, Dumbleland, used them heavily on Continuum for those thick piano-like cleans and soaring leads. Often runs an SSS clean on stage for that massive elastic sound on Gravity. He said playing one was like hearing the sound in your head, finally realized.
High praise. Joe Bonamassa, the collector.
Of course, owns several ODSs, including Lowell George's. Blends 50-watt ODS combos with high-powered Tweed twins live. Uses his signature speakers. His first Dumble was called the Robin Ford rig. Shows that influence again.
The list just goes on, doesn't it? Yeah. Jackson Browne, Henry Kaiser, Sonny Landreth, Eric Johnson.
Kirk Hammett for cleans. Jason Isbell, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, who owned 11 Dumbles at one point, including sleepers.
11. It tells you something, doesn't it? These players waited years, paid fortunes. They believed these amps were truly special, irreplaceable.
Which brings us to the future. Drew Berlin and Matt Swanson now own the Dumble company name. They've started the Dumble Preservation Society.
Okay, what's their mission?
To preserve Dumble's reputation and legacy meticulously. They're archiving everything, info on amps, players, files on Clapton Santana, documenting who got what.
That's huge for history.
And they're preserving new old stock parts, transformers, tubes, caps, resistors, specifically to service the original amps authentically, keeping them alive as Dumble intended.
What about new builds? Is that happening?
Their goal, if they do build new ones, is to be as consistent with the past as possible. To do exactly what he would have done, respecting the original philosophy.
Did they show anything?
At NMM 2025, yeah, they unveiled a continuation amp. Started from a chassis Dumble himself began, finished by a trusted tech who deeply understood Dumble's methods. It signals a commitment to honoring the original spirit and quality. A careful balance of preservation and continuation.
Okay, hearing about all those legendary players, it makes you want one, right? Let's be real. Originals are museum pieces, basically. 6 figures plus. For everyday players, that tone is essentially unobtainable. The ultimate chase the dragon scenario for guitarists.
Absolutely, which inevitably led to this whole quest for replication. A whole mini industry popped up trying to capture that magic. Think about it. What if Marshall only ever made 300 amps? The hype would be insane.
Right. So the most direct route, short of finding an original, is the Dumble-style clones.
Or inspired builds, yeah. Still premium, thousands of dollars, but relatively affordable compared to an original $100,000 one. And they get incredibly close in terms of circuit, response, tone. Builders like Two Rock, Fuchs, Carolan, Amplified Nation.
Amplified Nation's Wonderland Overdrive gets mentioned a lot, aiming for that Ford Mayer kind of sound.
Exactly. Taylor Cox at Amplified Nation, he's really building on the legacy, studying forums like the Amp Garage, where people have spent years dissecting these things. They're not just copying, they're synthesizing that knowledge, often adding modern touches like reverb, making really exceptional amps.
But even those are a big investment, which leads us to pedals. The Dumble-in-a-box phenomenon.
A huge market, trying to get that ODS essence into a stomp box. The Hermita Zen Drive was an early one, now made by Love Pedal, really popular for that smooth, mid-focused drive.
Others too. Jetter, Vertex.
Yeah, the Vertex Ultraphonics, the HRM version. Lots of pedals aiming for that dynamic feel, that specific EQ curve, often with internal switches to try and mimic the different Dumble voicings.
Interesting thought, though. Can you get close with just EQ? If you don't want another drive pedal.
Sources suggest you can get surprisingly far using a good graphic or parametric EQ pedal either before or after your main overdrive, going into a clean amp.
How would that work? What are you trying to shape?
They're trying to replicate that Dumble frequency curve, pushing the mids, that Robin Ford vocal quality, keeping the highs clear but not harsh, adding some controlled low end for body.
So boosting specific frequencies.
Yeah, maybe a bump around 4K, a lift at 8K, maybe 16K for air, adding some weight around 250 hertz. It depends on your rig. You'd use a clean pedal platform amp like a Port City Pearl, a transparent drive like a Cocopelli, and then sculpt with the EQ. It takes a good ear, but you can definitely approximate that unique Dumble contour.
Fascinating. Which neatly brings us to the MXR Custom Shop Shin Juku drive, that little green box that made a big splash.
It really did. Launched late 2016 explicitly as a Dumble in a box. And the pedigree was the real story here.
There's a collaboration, right? MXR and Shin Suzuki.
Exactly. Shin Suzuki. I mean, in Japan, he's the Dumble authority. He's been servicing real Dumble since the 90s, knows them inside out. He also created the Dumbloid pedal.
The boutique one, that cost a fortune.
Originally around $600, yeah. Cult status among tone chasers for nailing the Dumble sound. So MXR approached him to make something more accessible.
And the name, Shin Juku. Clever play on his name and the Tokyo district.
Nice touch, right? Design-wise, super simple. Small green box, output, tone, gain knobs, and that little dark switch.
But inside,
Carefully tuned circuit based on Shin's intimate knowledge, trying to capture those Dumble hallmarks. Smooth sustain, quick attack, and crucially, that touch sensitivity.
did it deliver on the touch sensitivity? That's hard for a pedal.
Remarkably well, actually. A very fast response. Cleans up beautifully with lighter picking or rolling back the volume, but really sings when you dig in. Doesn't feel compressed or squishy like some drives.
And the tone. Did it get that mid-range bloom?
It really nails that forward, rich mid character that makes leads cut through. Harmonically complex overdrive feels very amp-like.
What about a gain range?
Yeah.
That tone control.
Gain goes from a nice light boost, adding warmth and character, up to a pretty serious grind. Responsive, mid-heavy, lots of harmonics when cranked. The tone knob has a really wide sweep, lets you reshape the voice significantly, almost like using Dumble's jazz rock switches. Makes it versatile, and that dark switch is pretty cool too.
What does that do? Exactly.
It cuts high frequencies, gives you a thicker, mellower tone, mimics the Dumble jazz voicing, or helps tame a Blight amp or guitar. At high gain, it can even add this slightly fuzzy, almost desert rock vibe, but still stays clear. Adds another flavor.
So the $1 million question, or maybe the $130 question in this case, how close does it really get to a Dumble?
Look, a pedal can't replicate the entire architecture of a cascading ODS into a power amp, but run into a good, clean tube amp. It does an admirable job of capturing the vibe. It imparts that Dumble-esque voice, the mid-range sweetness, the focused attack, the smooth sustain.
Good is an always-on pedal too, like a tone sweetener.
Excels at that. Low gain, it adds subtle compression, warmth, that edge of breakup feel, makes a basic clean amp sound and feel more expensive, more responsive. Shin Suzuki's ear is evident in that mid-range, voicing prominent mids, creamy highs, tight bass. It's basically the Dumble EQ profile in a Bach.
And the price was crazy low for what it was, right? Around $129.
Shockingly low, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially being an MXR custom shop release, collaboration with Shin, premium parts, special attention, and crucially, limited run.
Ah, the scarcity factor again. Only 2,500 worldwide.
Yep. Instantly collectible, became a bit of a unicorn on the used market straight away. Prices jumped to $180, $200 plus. People wanted it.
Build tough, like MXR usually does. True bypass.
All of that. Bomb-proof housing, low noise, smooth controls, gig-worthy. It really did kind of democratize the Dumble experience, let regular players get a taste of that sound.
How was the reception overall?
Hugely positive. Praised for its organic amp-like feel. People noted it wasn't just a one-trick pony either, could do other overdrive sounds too. Its reputation just grew and grew in the enthusiast community online forums. It really stands out among D-style pedals because of Shin Suzuki's direct involvement, that authentic insight. It feels less like a copy and more like...
Yeah, a love letter to the Dumble amp. Condensing the history, the ideals, the exclusivity into something you could put on your pedal board.
one of the most successful amp-in-a-box pedals ever, maybe. Capturing the spirit, not just the schematic.
I think that's fair to say. It captured a piece of that magic with Shin Suzuki's blessing, essentially. Hashtag tag Natri outro.
So there you have it, the Dumble amplifier. This almost mythical beast, right? Colossal power, yet delicate nuance, a symphony of harmonics connecting players to history to heroes, plugging into one. It's like plugging into a lineage. You hear echoes of SRV, Robin Ford, Larry Carlton, Santana. It's where tech meets magic, guided by a master's hand. A truly profound experience, by all accounts. And then on the other side, you have the MXR Shin Juku drive, this little green genie's lamp. Unassuming, but step on it, and out comes that Dumble-esque voice.
It's like if the Dumble is the legendary sword forged by a wizard.
Then the Shinjuku is maybe a dagger made from a shard of that same steel, smaller, way more accessible, but carrying that same spirit, that same cutting edge. It lets you touch the edge of the legend, get a taste of the magic.
There's a kind of poetic justice there, isn't there? Dumble guarded his secrets so fiercely, but the allure just grew. It inspired people like Shin Suzuki halfway across the world. The mystique didn't die. It created more art. The legends spawned new legends.
Absolutely. The Shinjuku doesn't diminish the Dumble legacy. In a way, it amplifies it, makes a version of that sound reachable for thousands who'd never experienced the original.
And ultimately, whether it's a priceless original Dumble or a well-made pedal, the goal's the same, isn't it?
It's to forget the gear, to get lost in the music, find that sound that makes you play better, feel deeper, create freely. That's the real tone worth chasing. That's the prize.
So as you continue your own tone quest, maybe think about this. The Dumble legacy, beyond the rarity and cost, is how it changed what we expect from an amp. That touch sensitivity, that harmonic richness, that feel, even if you never own one, the pursuit of that feeling has shaped everything that came after boutique amps, pedals. Dumble's influence keeps singing through our rigs, whether it's a towering stack or just a little green box.